This is I Have No Title and I Must Podcast Reviews, and today we're reviewing the Fantastic Four. This will be non-spoiler, so we will be releasing a bigger discussion about a week from now, so be sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. So quick rundown of what this movie is. We have the Marvel's Fantastic Four, and we have Reed Richards and Sue Storm not knowing if they could even have children, finding out that she is pregnant. When about the same time, Galactus's herald shows up and announces that their world is next to be devoured, and so they must embark on a way to stop him. And before we get into our thoughts on this, for any of the casual moviegoers or casual Marvel fans that are like, I've not watched movies in a while, I'm not caught up on any of the TV shows, like I don't know about this, you're perfectly fine. This movie stands up 100% on its own. You can watch it, no problem.
Yeah, I'd say if you're kind of checked out and feel like Marvel's let you down for a bit, maybe it's time to switch over to DC brand. But you're curious because this seems different. It is different, and it would actually be a good jumping back on point because there is going to be a soft/hard reboot coming up.
It feels like this movie might have already kicked that into motion.
Yeah. And there's going to be a merging or blending of different universes later on. That's just insider information and history from comic books. So, yeah, you could go into this blind. In fact, if you're listening to this for some reason, I don't know why you would be, and you haven't seen it, and you don't even like comic book movies, and you're wondering, is this the one I could get? It is, maybe. Yes. Because it's extremely different from the typical fare.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. For sure, if you have the chance, see this movie. This is the most excited I've been watching a comic book movie in a while. And I don't mean like excited about the hype behind it. I mean, actually watching the movie. I have not felt this way since like Endgame. And for this to be like a beginning of something instead of the payoff to something, that feeling wasn't as high, but it was still there. It's a nice little roller coaster. There's nothing that's unpredictable, I would say, but you get sucked in. Mm-hmm. Like you feel the highs, you feel the lows, and there's a certain scene in the movie, I'm not going to spoil, but the acting from Pedro was so great. Like, I got choked up a little bit. Even though I knew 100% what was coming next and that it was going to be okay, you couldn't help but to get a little teary-eyed over it.
Yeah, Pedro's such a great actor, but I've never really liked the casting for this, mostly because I think he puts in his contract that he has to have a mustache and some stubble. And I've always, there's like Reed Richards forgets to shave for 3 years beard in the comic books, and because that's fairly accurate, like to some, different on whatever level of spectrum they're dealing with Reed at the time, or clean shaven Reed Richards, which is predominantly like the longest running look. So that really bugged me that, because like shaven, not like he's got a good like rectangular head. He doesn't look dissimilar to Reed. I think it could work, and I knew he could pull it off. Reed is not a charismatic man. He's the anti Tony Stark. So knowing that like Pedro knows how to play like really deadpan, from like, and like being able to convey emotion with his body, but not necessarily with the use of his face, i.e. Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. So I knew he would be able to do it. There was just certain aesthetic issues that I had that I can't get past. But, once you get there, you settle into it. He's got a mustache. It's not Tony Stark. He is the opposite of Tony Stark, the anti-Tony Stark, and he doesn't need to be charismatic. The rest of the team is too charismatic, and that's what the balance is.
Yeah, I felt kind of the same way. I wasn't sure about the casting because the guy that plays Johnny Storm, I've only seen him in one thing, although he was pretty good in that one thing. It was Eddie Munson in Stranger Things. And the actors playing Sue and the actor portraying Ben, like I've not really watched anything they're in, so I wasn't sure about them, but I thought it was pretty good.
I never saw Stranger Things. I still haven't gotten around to it. I think we mentioned that recently on a thing, and I did not realize that was him until you said that just now.
It took me a while. I'm like, who is this guy?
He was on Game of Thrones too, right?
Maybe.
Because I saw he's like done up in some sort of like medieval garb, and
I know the director of the Fantastic Four directed some episodes of Game of Thrones.
So nobody's been mentioning that he was on Stranger Things, like, because to me, well, I guess Game of Thrones might be bigger than that because it's got the whole series of books and everything. So like that would make sense if indeed that's what those images are from. I don't know. I did it one time. But like I feel like Stranger Things is more of like a cultural touchstone that people would relate to right now. But I saw him play guitar live at a convention.
Yeah.
And then I just saw him in this movie, and I didn't realize like that I didn't make the connection. I was far enough back that I was like, this is pretty cool, but I didn't see his face well. And
yeah, it took me a while because in Stranger Things he's got like long dark hair, where in this he's got like short, very blonde hair.
Yeah.
But,
like inhumanly blonde hair.
Yeah.
Perhaps he'll meet an Inhuman one day, or maybe Marvel's never going to do that again. It's good. This movie, it's not great, I would say. Now, you might feel different. It might have really blown away your expectations. I don't think this is the greatest comic book movie, but I think it's very good. And in some ways, it's a very different film from Superman, and that was going to be a part of what our larger conversation is going to be about. So it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't the best that Marvel's put out, but it definitely is one of their more solid pieces they've put out.
Yeah, and it's but partially because it's so different.
Yes.
It's not like anything you've seen.
It's got more of a gravitas to it that the films have been lacking for a while.
There's like Superman was unashamedly comic book inspired, this is too. And they deal with the origin. They do deal with the origin, but it's brief and it makes sense. It's very much of a time and place that kind of did exist in history, and also is like historical fiction. Like what if, but this was a little bit more science fiction-y because these super geniuses existed in the 50s to make the 60s quite a different place. And the thing that I would say that struck me the most is it is not cynical in a way that like a lot of the earlier Marvel films are snarky, they're funny, they're appealing to part of like the counterculture, but also they're trying to appeal to both sides. People who, would love to settle conflict by just putting on a suit of armor and shooting missiles at random people. And then also, it's like that there's like, your Billy Badass cowboy types. There's worse names for them. I won't use them right now on our non-spoiler review. That's for the spoiler review. And then you got your nerds who just have a keen sense of justice because they've been bullied their whole life. So bullies and the bullied. You can come together and say, I wish I were Iron Man. I would solve my problems that way. This ain't that. This is this is about a family who really loves each other. And it never feels gooey or sappy, but you can tell that there's real love there. One thing that I did really like about the Ioan Grufford early 2000s Fantastic Four films with Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis was the way that they handled the writing is bad.
Yeah.
To be fair, the writing is bad. They did the best they could at the time, and the Thing was totally practical. I loved Michael Chiklis's portrayal of the Thing. I mean, one of those scenes, it just popped up on my Instagram, where the woman he was supposed to get married to leaves his ring on like the bridge where they were saving some people, and it's like kind of the first time they're in public or do a public hero thing, and he goes to pick it up, but he can't because his fingers are too big and rock-like, and they keep scraping against the pavement. And his best friend Reed comes up and just picks it up and puts it in his hand and just looks at him, and is just there with him. It was one of the most touching things in probably those two movies plus Fant Four Stick. His and Johnny's relationship is adversarial, but and they bicker, and I would almost say it's too much, but it's meant for comedy, it's meant for laughs, and they do that in the comics. In this, they have that, but it doesn't feel like it goes too far far. Maybe for some people, they're like, I would have liked to see them go a little further, like actually get into a fight or something. I don't think we need that.
No, I thought it was nice. It's like brotherly almost. Like
it was, yeah. They really feel like they are, like four best friends. They are like they're actually family. Ben is the only one who's like not related actually in some way. But I mean, there's no way that nobody would not be calling him Uncle Ben every time they mention Ben's name after that baby's born, because he is part of the family. And you get that. And I think that that sense of earnestness in the way that they made that, this is where it draws back to Superman. I've been seeing a lot of posts about people saying Superman, they made the Superman movie with the premise of like, what if a guy, but he's nice? And that's it. And it's like, what if there's like a family, like a non-traditional nuclear family, but it's just nice. That's good. It's actually good. They treat each other with respect, and it's funny, and they have their issues, but they work them out in as healthy a way as they can. And these people are in an impossible situation because they have to save the world. They're also leaders in their own fields or whatever, except Ben. And I don't know what Johnny does exactly, but they're the best of these people. They're Marvel's first family. They're often referred to as Marvel's first family because the introduction of the Fantastic Four really kind of was a reboot to Marvel Comics when it came out and started the Marvel Universe. Given that, they've oftentimes, over time, people don't, it's kind of the hokey comic book. It's like the dumb classic, like how Superman is looked at. And so they've had to have like upgrades over time, or like just, the power balance kind of just shifts. And eventually, Reed becomes more and more powerful with his intellect. Like, if you don't know much about the Fantastic Four comics, just think about anything they've done with Rick from Rick and Morty. There's a lot of influence and a lot of what they're going to do with Reed Richards in the next 10 years. You're going to say, oh, they ripped that off of Rick and Morty. No, Fantastic Four did it first, mostly Jonathan Hickman, but even all the way back to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, there was something they saw in themselves in there. And like Ben Grimm is mostly based on Jack Kirby. He based him on himself, this, immovable rock person who seems impenetrable, but is actually a really loving, caring person, if you can get past that. I didn't know how that guy was going to play him, because in the garlic scene in the trailer, I was kind of like, I get this sets it up, but I don't know, it didn't hit me. But then after that scene in the movie, this guy's just the perfect Ben Grimm. It just works. And they got the look dead on, and the scenes where him and Johnny do kind of bicker the most or whatever is really funny, because they also feel like best friends. That in some ways more so than Reed. Reed almost feels left out, and there is some autism coding in there, but I want to get more into that in our spoiler review.
Another thing is, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, it just is a thing, but less silly than some of the movies they've put out recently have been.
Yes, for sure. That is a good, for sure.
It had its laughs for sure, not as much as the people sitting next to me would have implied, but
did they think it was hilarious?
I don't know. They just like repeated certain lines when they said them. I'm like,
oh God, that surfboard's not part of her body.
It's just like, it's like, go do this. They're like, ha, yeah, go do that. It's just like, okay,
did you go see this movie with all of my coworkers?
Maybe.
I don't want to say too much more because there's a lot more discussion that would be spoilery related.
Yeah.
Galactus is, I have, my biggest issues with this movie come from Galactus, be that I have any issues at all. And those are just nitpicks from knowing comic book stuff and having expectations. Even then, if you don't, is it bad? No. And also, Silver Surfer is not gender swapped. That's the Silver Surfer. This is not the Silver Surfer. This is not the Silver Surfer. This is a Silver Surfer, which I believe is never referred to as the Silver Surfer or a Silver Surfer anyway.
Yeah.
I don't even think they say, I could be wrong, and I wish I'd been listening for this. I'm not sure if the word surf is in this movie. I could
don't
be
even,
wrong.
I'm trying to remember if Johnny even says surfboard.
He refers to it as a board.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if he said surfboard. And if it is so fast and brief that I don't think they ever say Silver Surfer. It's Shalabal. And I do have the extremely minor issues with that too. But she herself also, she was really good. I liked all the writing for her. And I mean, it was like the legitimately scary moments are with her.
Yeah.
But like, just as a quick aside, with like Thor Love and Thunder special effects and like some of the stuff with She-Hulk where people complain about the effects. Some of it I get, some of it I don't. Maybe my eyesight's not the best. It actually is pretty good. But with the one kid whose head was floating as a transmission, it's like, what's that supposed to look like?
Yeah.
You know, like that when people were like, and then they changed it to something else that looked equally bad. It just different. I hear these rumors, I guess, because it's not like an official statement's never been made, but apparently, and this is the problem Marvel's running into now that James Gunn is fixing at DC, which is we're not moving forward if a script is not locked in. You can make minor changes, I guess, or rewrites on the day, or sometimes that's ad-libbing. Things come up, like what we talked about with Superman, and like the addition of Lois being punk rock, even though he had a script already written. They collaborate. This is the process. But like Marvel's going in with like no dialogue for Robert Downey Jr. And just letting him ad-lib a whole movie?
Yeah.
That's insane! And yeah, you can do that once in a while, I guess, and hope it works. But like, once you're dealing with this, and the level of when like half your movie is CGI, you cannot hope. And I think the issues they're running into, the reason why apparently, from what I'm hearing, that the CGI is bad in these is they're finishing the CGI first or like getting kind of like a game plan, kind of like what they would do in Marvel Comics. They thought they could do this with a movie, is they would draw the comic book and then Stan Lee or somebody would come in and they would know basically a story and they would write the dialogue and narration and whatever along with it. I think that's how certain miscommunications happen, like how the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, became like a wife beater, is because of a miscommunication between the author, the script writer, and the artist. They, it was like, hey, could you like strike person or whatever, like hit her way or, push or whatever. And he like does a full on backhand with her, like doing a super dramatic fall away. And it's like from then on, that one panel alters the course of Hank Pym's history forever. So with this, I don't know what people wanted from the Silver Surfer, what they want it to look like. When it got in there, it looked cool. And that's another thing too, is what is a Silver Surfer supposed to look like? We don't have one in real life. I think on the big screen it looked better than anything that was in a trailer.
Yeah.
I thought she looked good. I thought she looked like she was made out of chrome.
Yeah.
And 3D. I don't know what else was supposed to be. It, like, if you see the behind the scenes from like Rise of the Silver Surfer, it's like a guy in as shiny, not really even, because you can make like not reflective, and it wasn't. It was just like almost white bodysuit, the very strange like face that was fixed, like a either prosthetic or a mask of some type. The rest of it was CGI in post. This woman, it's like she still had her own eyes, it looked like, and it felt very real. More so than Galactus, and a lot of people really like the look of Galactus, so I want to save a lot more of that discussion for...
The last thing I will say, and this goes back for like the casual viewing audience that want to kind of get the most from the movie, but also respect your time, only the first post-credit scene is any kind of narrative thing to it.
Yeah.
The other one is kind of an Easter egg. So after the first one, if you want to leave, but I would recommend at least staying to that first one.
Yeah.
Even though it is very minor, it does kind of set up the next movie. So
I would, without spoiling that. The other one is, it really is just an Easter egg. It's one of like kind of a jokey one that you could miss.
Yeah, but be sure to give us a subscribe and a like so that you won't miss our more in-depth conversation later. But until next time, see ya.